The Knicks controlled this game from the jump, playing new offense. They're essentially just playing with a lot of pace, pushing the ball in transition. They're having more sequences where Jalen Brunson is not bringing the ball up the floor, but rather starting in the corner and coming off of action after the defense has already shifted. They're using him as a screener more, essentially just trying to take advantage of what is a roster strength for the Knicks. And I think this is an appropriate direction for the Knicks to go. And this is why you make a coaching change. This is a system, coming from Sacramento with Mike Brown, where he was having a lot of 3-man action, a lot of like getting the ball side to side and different ball handlers involved. He's just trying to implement similar action. And, this is a New York Knicks roster that has a lot of ball handling, right? Like Jalen Brunson can make plays with the basketball. Karl Anthony Towns can make plays with the basketball. So can OG. So can McHale. So can Deuce McBride. Tyler Kolek came in and played some really nice advantage creation basketball tonight. You've got ball handling, so you need to use that. Pushing in transition is generally more efficient, right? NBA teams are roughly 20% more efficient in transition. So you push in transition, you just get yourself more opportunities to score at a higher clip, right? It creates early advantages. The entire purpose of running action is to get a guy open so that you can play drive and kick basketball. If you can do that, if you can accomplish that by pushing the ball up the floor, then great. But it also saves more time on the shot clock for multiple attacks. That's where you take advantage of your aggregate ball handling. The Knicks had games last year where all four of their big four would go for 100 points. The key is trying to get that to happen more often, to have that become more of the norm rather than the exception. They had 5 players tonight score at least 15 points. There was more rhythm going down the roster. The Knicks generated 35 catch and shoot jump shots tonight. They averaged 25.5 per game last year in the regular season. Substantial increase there, albeit in just one game. But a big part of it that I liked, and this was something I noticed throughout the game, letting other guys bring the ball up the floor, not named Jalen Brunson. More action where it's OG Anunoby bringing the ball up the floor, Mikal Bridges bringing the ball up the floor, Deuce McBride bringing the ball up the floor. By doing that, you help in a couple of key ways. One, you prevent Jalen Brunson from wearing down against ball pressure. I saw a similar approach from the Lakers at times last night, where they would have him just run up to the corner and have someone else bring the ball up the floor, rather than have Luka have to waste a bunch of energy turning his man, dealing with a defender that turns him 3 or 4 times before he gets up the floor, right? The second piece of it is you get more opportunities to attack out of the corner and off-ball action. This helps in 2 ways. One, it gets the defense to shift first. So when the ball handler comes up the floor, the defense is keyed in on them. You move the ball side to side and then get your man attacking. The defense has to shift side to side. That can loosen it up a little bit. And then the second piece of it is one of the best ways to beat ball pressure is to not have to dribble. When Jalen Brunson can use his hands to shed the defender with a swim move to then come off the action and then catch and get right downhill. By the way, Jalen missed some shots tonight that he usually makes. He had a little floater coming off of one of those pin downs off the left side that he just happened to smoke. He missed some shots tonight that were really good looks for him coming off of those actions that will go in over the course of this season. And by the way, him and Cat both just looked a tiny bit out of rhythm in preseason when I was watching them too. And this is to be expected. When you change your system, when you change the style that you play, it's one of those things that can lead to a little bit of a rhythm. It can lead to a little bit of like a period of growing pains, so to speak. So that goes without saying. But in general, I thought they just kind of had more verve and more intensity down the roster, fueled by the fact that everyone is involved. I also thought they kind of kept some of that classic Knicks grittiness that they've shown in recent years, especially on the offensive glass. Like they had 8 different players secure an offensive rebound tonight. I thought they came out with impressive energy and just competitiveness in this game. Kenny Atkinson actually referenced it at halftime to his team, but he thought the Knicks came out and punched him in the mouth, and that's exactly what they did. And I still think there's lots of room for improvement there. There's a lot of looks that got missed. Brunson missed a bunch. OG missed several easy ones early in the game. I really like the job that Tyler Kolek did when he came in the game. Him and Deuce McBride did awesome off the bench. Deuce just bringing kind of like aggressive movement shooting. And then Tyler Kolek, like, this is the important piece. When you're trying to play that advantage basketball where everyone's involved and everyone's driving closeouts and the ball's moving side to side, it starts with that initial advantage. And in order to get that initial advantage, you need to run an action, and out of that action, have a player that can make the read. And the read that Tyler Kolek kept making tonight, and he made several good ones. Like there was a switch where he was able to feed the ball to Karl Anthony Towns, and Karl Anthony Towns drew a foul. But one of the reads that he kept making tonight was the cross court to the opposite wing. A lot of times when you come off of an action, the low man who's guarding the opposite corner will slide in underneath the basket, right? And then as kind of like a preliminary X out, so to speak, the guy who's guarding the opposite wing will drop to the corner, and then the low man will try to rotate back out to the wing. It's like an X out, but a lot of teams will do it early. And to have that top wing guy drop to the corner, because a lot of times when guys get downhill, they want to fire it to the corner. And you'll see a lot of turnovers there where like the low man steps over and the guard fires the pass to the corner, and that guy drops from the wing and jumps right into the passing lane and gets an interception, right? Tyler was rifling it across his body to the opposite wing, and he generated a couple of like butt naked 3-point shots that didn't go in. And like, I just think he makes a lot of sense as a guy that just kind of keeps that engine flowing when he comes into the game, brings the ball up the floor, makes a quick decision with the basketball out of an early read, out of an early action. Then they can just play their driving kick out of that. Overall, an impressive opening showing. Again, they hit a little bit of a lull in the third quarter. Part of it was Donovan Mitchell came out and went on a crazy scoring run. Donovan had this weird game where he came out and was like not looking to be aggressive at all. And the Cavs didn't look like they knew what to do. And so Evan Mobley just kept jacking up shots early in the game, took a couple of settled, like kind of mid-range jump shots. We'll talk about Evan in a minute. But the Cavs looked all discombobulated on offense in the first half. But to start the second half, Donovan came out and was like, screw all that. I'm going to get going as a scorer. And he threw a hell of a punch, and the Cavs went on a run and they pushed it close. But overall, they continued to play good basketball throughout the game. They stiff-armed them, kept going on little runs, and they were able to put this thing away in the fourth quarter. Good start for the Knicks. On the Cavs front, it is jarring, and this dates back to the playoff series. And this is a big part of why I wasn't as down on Cleveland as everyone else was after the disappointing playoff performance. I just think Darius Garland is incredibly important to this team. We talked a lot about the idea of advantage creation with Tyler Kolek earlier, right? And just in general, from like transition pushes and things along those lines that start the engine of the Knicks drive and kick. Well, Darius Garland is the guy who does that for Cleveland. The problem with Donovan Mitchell, and we discussed this in our player rankings, and it's why I'm not quite as high on him as some of the other people are that cover the league, but Donovan can be a little tunnel vision, and he can just kind of look for his shot. He's not as good at like using the power of his scoring ability to take advantage of the defense reacting to him and take easy kick out reads to start the engine of the offense. A lot of times he's just hunting really difficult shots, and he's a very good difficult shot maker. And when he's making them, he can be unbelievable. And I'm not going to sit here and be overly critical, because this is a guy that continues to average 30 points a game efficiently in every playoff run. So shout out to Donovan Mitchell, the scorer. But in order to this Cavs team that was playing with incredible pace, that was generating a ton of quality 3-point shots last year, it was fueled by the job that Darius Garland did, knifing into the teeth of the defense early in possessions with his speed, not to score the basketball, but to kick to shooters. And then the Cavs were just really good at playing read and react basketball out of that. And so that was the first thing that stood out to me, was just not having Darius out there. The second piece of it is like, when you start to take Darius out and then you take Max Strus out, they start to become pretty light on that refined offensive skill. Like, their big shot the ball well tonight. Evan Mobley hit some threes. Larry Nance hit some threes. I actually really like the Larry Nance fit, just bringing some shooting to the 5 spot and just his ability to drive closeouts. And he can also play alongside another one of their bigs. Like, Larry Nance, it looked good tonight. I was happy with it. He got in trouble with Kenny Atkinson once for leaking out in transition and giving up an offensive rebound and got called for a timeout. The Kenny called a timeout to chew his ass. But like I thought Larry Nance looked good. Evan Mobley shot the ball well, but the rest of the perimeter court is a lot of Jalen Tyson, who struggled at times to guard to guard Jalen Brunson, and obviously doesn't have a ton of refined offensive skill. Tyrese Proctor, like, won the lottery pick. This is a guy that is being asked to do a lot for a player of his pedigree at this point. There's a lot of Tyrese Proctor tonight. A lot of him, taking pull-up threes against unders and pick and roll, or missing open threes in transition pushes. And like, there's just a lot of like guys that are being slotted up into roles that are a bit above their pay grade, in large part because of the injuries to Darius Garland and Max Strus. So try not to be overly critical of Cleveland tonight. I think Darius Garland is their engine. And if it wasn't, if them getting their ass beat by Indiana when he was injured wasn't the indicator of that, I think tonight was another indicator of that. Last kind of thought before we get out of here, before we get to our questions from the audience. Evan Mobley, a little bit of a helter-skelter game from him. I thought he came out super aggressive, which on the one hand is nice, but I thought he settled for some mid-range jump shots. And like, this is where I'd love to see him kind of do some of the stuff that we're seeing from Wemby, where there's a little bit more of a forward aggression to his high post attacks and his attacks in the middle of the floor, where he can try to get into the body of the defender a little bit and take shorter, easier shots than some of these like drifting, fading jump shots that he was taking. Another thing too is like, when you're thin like Evan Mobley is, you can draw a lot of fouls that way when you bring that aggression. I mean, Wemby drew a lot of fouls today just by like, going up aggressively towards the rim and then falling down when he'd get hit, because he still is thinner than some of these dudes, right? So like, I want to see a little bit more of the to the rim aggression, just to kind of allow a little bit more balance. And then what ends up happening is when you do that, all of a sudden, when you start to go to those mid-rangers, you get more natural separation because the defense is playing the drive a little bit more. And now, instead of it being like a heavily contested, nasty fadeaway, it's a little bit more of an up and down, rise and fire over your right shoulder type of shot that I think he does have the touch to hit at a high level. And good to see him hit some threes, made a lot of plays defensively tonight. He competed. Again, I just want to see a little bit more downhill aggression for him on the ball as he continues to develop.